Hello, welcome to an evening service here at Clinging Ridge Baptist Church, and I'm so thankful you decided to join us. We're going to continue our study in Genesis. We have made it to almost to chapter 27. We're going to do a little bit of the end of 26 and then hit 27 and continue to see the story of Jacob unfolding as God's continuing his promise with him. So before we get going, let's pray. Jesus, thank you for today. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your grace and the time you've given us just to study your word and to understand who you are as you've revealed yourself to be. God, we don't get to make up who you are. We don't get to create our own God. We don't get to decide what we feel like you should be. You have told us who you are. And we get to study your word to become intimately and knowing who you are. And I pray, God, that you help us to do that this evening and help us to truly just chase down who you are and how we can relate to you better and how we can become more like what you want us to be and what you've created us to be. In your name I pray. Amen. So we'll be in Genesis chapter 26. I'm going to do 34 first, and it kind of starts off with something funny. I don't know if you guys know this or not. In-laws can be wonderful or terrible. I am one of the blessed few who have just incredible in-laws. I love my wife's family so much. My brother-in-law is one of my favorite people on earth. My sister-in-law is one of my favorite people to pester, and she likes to do the same to me. And I love both of them like my own actual brother and sister. My mother-in-law is a saint, and I'm just blessed. I am blessed to have great in-laws, but it doesn't always work that way, right? I know most of you right now, if you're listening, you're already thinking of people, or if you're watching with someone else, you're already telling them, yeah, you know that person. Yeah, and I know. So we're going to read right here at the very beginning an in-law situation that kind of kicks off a continued story for Esau, and then something that comes up for the family of Isaac's family. So let's read verse 34. When Esau was 40 years old, he took Judith, the daughter of Beeri, the Hittite, to be his wife, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon, the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. All right, so here's Esau. We always know this. He's shown us this pattern before, right? He just recently sold his birthright. If you've watched the last recording of Sunday evening a couple times ago, recently sold his birthright to his brother Isaac for a bowl of lentil stew, right? Because he walks in and he says, "I'm starving. I'm going to die. What good's a birthright if I can't even live? Give me food." He obviously wasn't dying. He was fine. He was talking. He was okay. But he just makes very impulsive decisions. Whatever feels right now is what's better. Who cares about the long-term consequences? Who cares what comes later? Right now is what I make my decisions based on. What am I feeling right now? And if you are human, you have made decisions like that, right? You have done this. This has happened. This starts at toddler age and moves on as we get older. And hopefully you do less of that now. But the fact is that we do this as humans. Sometimes we let the tyranny of the urgent overrule our brains and thinking about long-term what's going to be best. And we'll think, I have to do this right now, or I want to do this will be worth it. Who cares about the consequences? This will be so amazing. And long-term, those consequences are terrible. And so he had that with his selling off his birthright. And then here we see him meeting these two. We don't know where the backstory here, but he comes across these two Hittite women and decides, you know what? I want to marry both of them. I want both of them to be my wives. He leaves God's plan for marriage, leaves God's plan of one man and one woman being a husband and wife forever, right? She'll leave their parents, become one flesh, and stay together until they die. That's God's plan all the way back in Genesis 2, right? So before sin ever entered the world, God designed marriage to be that. Esau's like, I get it. That's what God wants. That's what he said, but I want this. Look, there's these two women, and I want to marry both of them. And he does, and apparently they're not great. And he brings them into, because back then, even though he would have had his own tent, had his own place to live, it would have been on the family property as he continued to work the family jobs, right? That's the way things typically work there. Kids didn't move far away, and in fact, they typically, the good kids stayed and helped run the family business. And so that's what Esau was doing. So he would have had his own tent, but his wives were living on the same property as Isaac and Rebekah, and these wives were apparently a terror to Isaac and Rebekah. And he said it made life just bitter for them, where they just hated every interaction they had, and they did not like these women. And I'm sure these women did not like Isaac and Rebekah. So let's move on. Chapter 27, starting verse 1. When Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." And he answered, "Here I am." He said, "Behold, I am old, and I do not know the day of my death. Now then take your weapons, your quiver, and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me, and prepare for me delicious food, such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die." Isaac's getting old, and he can't even see very well anymore, and he's moving on. He's like, all right, I could die anytime now. Little does he know he's going to live for like another 35 years. So, but he's at this point, he's sitting here thinking, man, I could die. And he knows exactly what God told Rebekah, right? What did God tell Rebekah whenever Jacob and Esau were born? The older shall serve the younger shall be the one that gets blessed. So God has already chosen Jacob. And Isaac knows that God chose Jacob. Isaac even knows that Esau sold his birthright and therefore gave up his own birthright to Jacob. So everything about this all points to Jacob gets the blessing. And Isaac is just saying, you know what? I don't care. I'm getting old, and before I'm put in a position or before Rebekah's around and makes me do something else, I'm going to do this the way I want to. I'm blessing Esau. He's the one I like. He's my favorite. I'm blessing him. He needs to go out and make me some of my favorite venison. I want him to hunt me a good deer. I want it grilled. I want it perfect the way that Esau makes it, and I'm going to give him the blessing no matter what. Verse 5, now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So when Esau went to the field to hunt for game and bring it, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, I heard your father speak to your brother Esau, bring me game and prepare for me delicious food that I may eat it and bless you before the Lord before I die. Okay, so Rebekah hears this. She's listening in. She's a little sneaky. I think she's where Jacob learns a lot of his sneakiness and trickery from. And so she's sitting there listening around. She's like, hey, Jacob, we need to talk. Your dad just said he wants to bless Esau. Now, Esau sold you his birthright, A. B, God chose you. So maybe that should be flipped reversed there. But she says this is what needs to happen. So that Isaac's breaking the rules here. He's blessing the wrong person, giving the birthright to the wrong person. And we need to do something about this, right? Because when calamity strikes, or when things don't go our way, when things fall apart the way they're supposed to, and again, my family has experienced this for several weeks in a row now. I've got to talk about it this past Sunday morning where it was wild. It's just been so much. But even with all that, I have to know that God is still in control. It's very easy to forget God is in control. It's very easy to forget to pray, to forget to trust, to forget to walk in peace in Him whenever life seems to be spiraling out of the way that we want it to, the direction we want it to go in. So Rebekah, instead of saying, hey, don't worry about it, I get all the names mixed up. Don't worry about it, Jacob. I'm going to trust God to do what God can do because obviously He can do anything He wants and He's going to control the situation. Rebekah does not do that. She says, we're going to do something on our own. She says, bring me game. She says, verse 8, now therefore, my son, obey my voice as I command you. Go to the flock and bring me 2 good young goats so that I may prepare from them delicious food for your father, such as he loves. And you shall bring it to your father to eat so that he may bless you before he dies. So she says, look, God's obviously lost control of the situation. I know He said you were going to be the one that's picked. I love you most. I want you to be picked. And Esau even sold you his birthright, so you should be picked. It's all not going as planned. God's obviously doing something else. He's busy, so we got to fix this. Here's how we're going to fix this. You go out and get me a couple of goats. I'm going to prepare them in a way that makes them taste like the venison that he likes to eat that Esau makes. I'm going to make them in a way that makes it good. You're going to go bring this to your dad, and then he'll bless you thinking you're Esau. We're going to trick him into blessing you. But Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be mocking him and bring a curse upon myself and not a blessing. Jacob has a very correct fear here. He's like, hey, Mom, I don't know if you know this or not. Me and Esau are 2 very different people. He was born looking like a red ape, and I was not. I am not a hairy person. I'm not, I've spent times in the tents. He goes out in the field and hunts. Like, we are as different as night and day. All Dad's got to do is hear me and then touch my arm, and he's going to know that's not Esau. And if he does that and he thinks I'm here just to mock him or make fun of him in his old age, instead of blessing me, he might curse me, put a curse on me, and speak something bad happening for the rest of my life, speak something terrible into my future, as opposed to giving me the blessing and the birthright that I've earned and bought and that God has already decreed is going to be mine anyways. So he's fearful in the right way. His mother said to him, "Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go bring them to me." So this is absolutely Rebekah's idea. And she's even willing to take the full accountability for it. So she's saying, hey, look, if that happens, if your dad figures it out, if Isaac understands this and he curses you, I'm telling you, put that curse is mine. I'm making this choice. I'm doing this, and I'll take the responsibility for it down to even whatever consequence comes. It's on me, not you. Okay? So again, absolutely doing the wrong thing, absolutely showing a lack of trust in God, absolutely taking matters into her own hands and thinking she has to do this for God, but at least she's willing to bear the consequences for it. Verse 14, so he went and took them and brought them to his mother, the goats, and his mother prepared delicious food such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best garments of Esau, her older son, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And the skins of the young goats that she put on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. And she put the delicious food and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. Okay, so a couple things we see here. First of all, so these best garments of Esau's, why they were in Rebekah's tent, I don't know, because he would have had his own tent, his own place to stay with his wives. It could have been that Rebekah went into his place and stole them. She could have gone and gotten them while she was preparing all this, while she was doing this, and said, just took them to make this work. It could be the priestly garments that actually would have been Isaac's and would have been officially handed down to Esau when he got his birthright, even though he had sold it and even though God had already said he shouldn't get it. But regardless, they were with Rebekah this time, and she says, hey, Jacob, put these on. This, his best stuff, this best garment he has, you need to wear this. And this tells you how hairy this guy was. She puts goat skin on Jacob's hands and on his neck so that if his dad felt of him, that would be the correct feeling. The feeling of goat fur. Anybody ever pet a goat? I have never seen a human in my life that has been that hairy, but apparently Esau was that guy. And then she puts all this delicious food into his hands and she says, go. So verse 18, so he went into his father and he said, my father. And he says, here I am. Who are you? Who are you, my son? So Isaac hears this is one of his sons coming in. And apparently Jacob changes his voice enough to at least make Isaac question, who exactly am I talking to? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Now sit up and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me. So Jacob kind of continues this lie, right? So he does what his mom tells him, but he feeds into it. He is saying, no, it's me. He doesn't say it's just your son or it's your son that's bringing you food. He says it's your firstborn son, Esau. That's who I am. Isaac said to his son, how is it that you found it so quickly, my son? So this is a good question, right? Because hunting takes a long time. Hunting takes some skill, some work. And Isaac's first question is, okay, if you're Esau and you're bringing me the food I told you to get just a little while ago, how in the world did you get this not only shot and killed and cleaned, but then cooked and back to me in this short amount of time? Now, again, here's another chance for Isaac to say, or for Jacob to say, you caught me. You're right, it's not me. But God told you to bless me, and Esau sold me his birthright, so why don't you do the right thing, Dad, and let's talk about this honestly. But instead, he answered, because the Lord your God granted me success. Jacob slips into that good religious talk. Oh, bless your heart, Father. Bless your heart. God he did some good things for me. He provided like only he can. That's what he goes into. Yeah. Oh, God he gave me such a good journey out here. The deer practically walked right up to me to die. I mean, it was just that good. That's what happened, Dad. And Isaac said to Jacob, please come near to me, that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you're really my son Esau or not. So Isaac's not totally fooled, and he's still thinking, this is strange. My son doesn't sound exactly like my son should. He brought this way faster than he should have. He's probably not saying all the things that Esau probably would have said. So he says, hey, come over here. I just want to touch you. I can't see very good. Let me just put my hands on you. I want to feel you. So Jacob went near to Isaac, his father, who felt him and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. And he said, are you really my son Esau? And he answered, I am. Then he said, bring it near to me that I may eat of my son's game and bless you. So he brought it near to him and he ate it, and he brought him wine and he drank. Okay, so Jacob carries this out to the fullest extent he can. Again, he can't change his voice enough to sound, we don't know everything about how Jacob looked. We hear a little bit about how Esau looked, but I just can imagine Esau being the big, burly, loud, deep-voiced man, right? He has all the stuff about him. He's the man's man, and his dad loved that about him. I don't think Jacob could sound anything like Esau. I think Jacob must have been far more soft-spoken and definitely not loud, not boisterous, not the big commanding presence that was Esau. Jacob was the guy that sat quietly in the tents for the most part. And so he couldn't sound like him, and his dad knew it. He's like, that sounds like Jacob. But I feel your hand, this feels like Esau. Okay, if you're telling me over and over and over again, you're my firstborn son Esau, then okay, thanks. I bless you for the food. Bring it to me. I'm going to eat it. I'm going to drink. Verse 26, then his father Isaac said to him, come near and kiss me, my son. So he came near and kissed him, and Isaac smelled the smell of his garments and blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of the field that the Lord has blessed. May God give of you the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you. So in this blessing, you're hearing some similarities between God's covenant that he makes with Abraham originally, right? Which moves on to his covenant that he makes with Isaac. And so he's kind of passing that covenant down. God's already done it, right? It's God's choice who he uses and who he picks and who he chooses to do things. And God has already chosen Jacob. Isaac is speaking basically the same blessing, but he thinks he's speaking it over Esau. So it's almost as if Isaac is trying to say, well, we'll see who's going to win here. If I bless Esau with the words that God uses, maybe it's going to make God do what I want. Anybody ever struggle with that? Struggle with trying to force God to do things the way that you want them done as opposed to trusting in the way that he's going to do things? I struggle with that. As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, when Jacob had scarcely gone from the presence of Isaac his father, Esau his brother came in from his hunting. Okay. So this timing couldn't have been more scary, right? So, and I'm sure Jacob has to be thinking this, like, Dad, let's get this going. Please eat faster. Please chew. Come on, buddy. It's really good, right? You want to eat? Can I help you feed? Can I help give you some more bites? Because I'll cut it for you. Because he's got to be thinking, if Esau shows up and sees me in here doing what I'm doing, I am dead. He's got to be scared of this. He must be terrified of this. So it happens as close of timing as it can be. Jacob had scarcely walked out of the door when Esau walks in. And then as he walks in the door, he prepares this delicious food, and he brought it to his father, and he said to his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's game that you may bless me. Hey, Dad, it's me, Esau. I did what you asked. We're both trying to connive and do things against God's will. I know I sold Jacob my birthright, but who cares about that? I know that God told Mom that he chose Jacob, but who cares about that? We're doing it our way because we're men and we got to make that choice. So come on, Dad, eat my food, give me my blessing. Let's do this. His father Isaac said to him, who are you? He answered, I'm your son, your firstborn, Esau. Then Isaac trembled very violently and said, who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate it all before you came, and I have blessed him. Yes, and he shall be blessed. All right, let's talk about his trembling. I don't think his trembling was out of anger, because the Bible is usually pretty clear about the anger. We'll see some emotions written in here about Esau's reaction. I think Jacob's trembling was at realizing he was unable to thwart God's plan. He had planned to deny what God had clearly told to Rebekah. He planned to deny what God had clearly done when Esau sold his birthright. He was going to deceive his way through getting his way, and he didn't care what God was doing. He wanted Esau to be the one. And he's sitting there trembling, saying, I just gave the Abrahamic covenant blessing to Jacob exactly as God said I would have to. And I think he's trembling, saying, and when he says, and yes, he will be blessed, what he's realizing in this moment, Isaac is having his moment of, I'm not God. I think we have those moments throughout our lives, right? Where things just don't go the way we plan to. They just crumble and fall apart. And we have to have moments sometimes under breaking pressure, sometimes under terrible grief, sometimes under just sheer stress of not having any control, where we have to have a moment of, I'm not God. And he's trembling, and he realizes this, especially because he was trying to work actually against him. Verse 34, as soon as Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry. You see, the Bible doesn't usually leave out if it's about anger, if it's about wrath or anything like that. And he cries out, bless me even also over my father. You see, here's Esau that's only thinking in the moment, like, I don't care what God wants either. I don't care that you bless Jacob. Bless me too. Take his away. Give me a blessing that's better than his. If you said that he's going to do something, make it that there's a loophole for me to come back and do what I want. But he said, your brother came deceitfully, and he has taken away your blessing. Esau said, is he not rightly named Jacob? Remember, Jacob is the deceiver. For he has cheated me these 2 times. And I love that he blames Jacob for cheating him out of his birthright the first time. And says, that's his fault. Now, yes, I might have sold my birthright. I might have chosen the stew over the birthright, but that's his fault. He shouldn't have made such good stew. He took away my birthright, and behold, he has taken away my blessing. And then he said, have you not reserved a blessing for me? Isaac answered, and he said to Esau, behold, I have made him lord over you and all his brothers. I have given to him for servants, and with grain and wine I have sustained him. What then can I do for you, my son? You see, here's Isaac sitting here in the realizing his own inability. I don't know if you've ever been there. Realizing, I just tried to fight God and I lost. What do I have to give now when I've already done, I gave everything to Jacob the way God told me to, and maybe it could have been better. Maybe if I had done what God wanted to, maybe I could have had a great way to bless Esau as well, but right now I gave this incredible blessing to who I thought was Esau because I was going to give nothing to Jacob. And so now he's caught in the trap of his own making. Though they both are going to blame Jacob and Rebekah, they're going to blame the others. This is a mess of Isaac's own making because he did not listen to God. And Esau said to his father, have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. So here's Esau, the man who only is so just in the moment, and his appetite drives everything, and everything's about what happens right now. And if as long as I get what I want right now, who cares about the future? Here's Esau coming to grips with, I've just lost the future. All the stuff that I wanted, the double portion of my father's inheritance, the blessing of all the things that are going to come, the right to be the priestly leader of the family after dad dies. I've lost all of that. It's all gone. And in fact, my father's blessing to Jacob says that I now have to serve him. And so it's this all of this happening, and Esau just falls to the ground and is crying and saying, is there not just one thing you can bless me with? Isaac, his father, answered and said to him, behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be, and away from the dew of heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck. So, I mean, what a blessing. hey, the good stuff of the earth, you're going to live away from that. The good things that come from the dew, causing crops to grow well and all this, you're going to live away from that. You're going to live by your sword. You're going to have to fight for everything that you get and do, and you're going to serve your brother. But one day, you're going to grow restless from serving your brother, and you're going to break his yoke. So this is a prophecy, right? Esau creates the Edomite people, which eventually do fight on a regular basis against the Israelites, and in some cases win major victories over them and have control of the nation of Israel. And so you see this prophecy creates this future of constant conflict. Because again, this is when you try to do things the way that God did not tell you to do them. Now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, "The days of mourning my father are approaching. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." So here's Esau, and he just says, you know what? Dad's right. He's going to die at some point, and I'm going to have to spend some time mourning. I'm going to spend some time crying over him. I'm going to spend his last days with him. I'm going to enjoy my time around him. Once Dad dies and Jacob becomes the blessed one, the chosen one, the one with the birthright, I'm just going to kill him and take it anyways. I'm still going to have that for myself. I will kill my own brother to get what I want. He hates him so much. But the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, "Behold, your brother Esau comforts himself about you by planning to kill you." Now, to hear that, he was comforting himself by saying, "Oh, it's going to be great to kill him. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee to Laban, my brother, in Haran, and stay with him a while until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him." All right, anybody think Esau's just going to forget? I think that Rebekah thinks he's not very bright, but I don't think very many people forget things like this. She says, "Then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereft of you both in one day?" Because I was just saying, if the day that Isaac dies, my husband dies, I'm also going to lose my favorite son. I can't bear that. So why don't you go ahead and leave now and go and hide with my brother. Just stay there with him. Go be with him until Esau's no longer going to kill you. Then we can come back and all be a family together. Then Rebekah said to Isaac, "I loathe my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women like these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be?" And so then we'll continue with Jacob's journey in our next week as he actually travels and goes and has Isaac's blessing to go to not marry a Hittite woman just like Esau had. And so Rebekah creates this way. But what no one sees here is that this will be the last time that Jacob does get to see his mother. She dies before he comes back. And so all of this conniving, all of this trying to create a way and try to make things happen because God's incapable, so I got to step in and do. God only helps those who help themselves, right? You know that's nowhere in the Bible. And so here's Rebekah trying to create God's plan for God, and God saying, "Man, why don't you let me do this?" And she never gets to see her favorite son again after going through getting this blessing this way, because she didn't trust God to do what God said he would do. She didn't trust him to do what only he could do. And I think our lesson from this story, from this passage in Genesis, is a lesson of trust. Can you trust God when life seems like it's not going the way it needs to? I had a much needed phone call yesterday from, I'm going to call him my cousin. He's technically my wife's cousin's husband, but he's a major spiritual influence in my life. He speaks lots of difficult truths to me, talks to me. And I was just talking about our house not selling and all the fear and anxiety and things that I felt like I need to go do. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. Can you help me do this? We need to do this. And he said, "Man, Collin, is God in control or is he not?" And he made me take a break and just pause and say, you know what? I'm not in charge of this. I have no control of other people or other things, and that doesn't give me a right to be lazy, but it also does mean I don't get to work to earn, to make God do what I want him to do. No amount of work of my own can force God to do anything. And if I'm trying to function as God in my own life, it will always fail. And I can sit back and rest and walk forward and work in peace that God is God. I am not. He's in control. And I can trust him in that. I think this is the time that this message is appropriate for all of us. Our world is chaos, where it seems like everybody has a different view or perspective of everything right now. We have a disease that's just racking the world, and we all feel so out of control, and we're trying to gain control in so many areas. And I think that this might be a lesson for all of us to sit back right now in 2021 and say, I'm not God. And I can rest and sit in peace in him, even when things are spiraling seemingly out of control, because they are out of our control. But God has not lost control. Can you trust that today? Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for today. Thank you for this story. God, I know that many of us have heard this story hundreds of times. But I pray that this fresh perspective might be just for us right now to trust that you are God. You're not out of control. You're not off the throne. You're not powerless against anything we're facing. And though that doesn't give us the excuse to fall into the sin of laziness, the sin of doing nothing when you clearly give us direction, but it does call us to relinquish our absolutely false idea of control of things we don't control. And let us put our faith in you. That you haven't lost control. And we can trust your design and your plan. And we can walk forward in the paths that you have clearly designed for us to walk. In your name I pray. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope you have a great rest of your week.